The night everything changed, it was raining the night Keanu Reeves lost everything. He just stepped off a small stage in a quiet part of Los Angeles. The event was small, meant to raise funds for a children's charity. The applause still echoed in his ears, soft and polite. But something didn't feel right. As he walked to his car, the street seemed to quiet. His phone buzzed and he saw a message that would freeze him in place. "Call me now. It's about your sister." Keanu's heart dropped. His sister Maya was his anchor. She was the one person who never treated him like a celebrity. She was the only family he had left. He dialed immediately, fingers trembling. The voice on the other end was calm. "To calm, there's been an accident," the man said. "I'm so sorry." Keanu didn't remember driving home. He didn't remember walking through the door. He remembered was sitting on the floor of his dark apartment, hands shaking, tears silently falling. His sister was gone, and with her. Something inside Keanu broke. He didn't speak to anyone for days. He didn't answer calls, didn't open his door. The only light in the apartment came from old candles he used when he couldn't sleep. Food spoiled in the fridge. Dust gathered on awards and movie scripts. Fans kept sending letters, but he didn't read them. The world outside moved on. But Keanu Reeves stayed frozen in one moment. Grief has a way of changing people. It doesn't ask permission. It just moves in and stays. Keanu stopped writing. He stopped acting. He walked at night, alone, wearing the same jacket and hat, hoping nobody would recognize him. He wandered into quiet coffee shops before they opened, sitting in the corners like a ghost. On one of those cold mornings, he walked into a bookshop he had never seen before. It was small, tucked between two tall buildings, and looked older than the rest of the street. The sign above it was faded. "Still pages," it read. Inside, it smelled like rain and paper. The air was warm. Books lined every wall. Soft music played from an old radio, and behind the counter stood a woman with quiet eyes. Her name was Anna. She looked up, gave a small smile, and said nothing. Keanu nodded, too tired to speak. He picked up a book from the shelf. The cover was blank. He opened it and saw words written in a child's handwriting. "It's a journal," Anna said gently. "People write things and leave it behind. No names, no rules." Keanu stared at the page. "Sometimes we write what?" "We're afraid to say out loud," she added, her voice like a whisper in the quiet room. He didn't reply, but he didn't leave either. He sat down in the corner of the bookshop, opened a blank page, and began to write. At first, it was just a few words, then more, then pages. He came back the next day, and the next. He didn't say much. Anna didn't ask anything. Weeks passed. Anna never mentioned who he was. She never brought up his films or the photos on the internet. To her, he was just a man who walked in from the rain and needed somewhere to sit. That made all the difference. One evening, the rain came again. Keanu was late. The bookshop was closing. Anna stood at the door, ready to lock it. But then she heard footsteps. He was soaked, breathless. In his hand, he held a single page from the journal. "Can I read this to you?" he asked, his voice raw. Anna nodded. He read. His voice trembled. He spoke of loss, of pain, of guilt, of how he wished he could have taken her place. He spoke of silence, and how it was the loudest thing in his life now. When he finished, Anna said nothing. She stepped forward, took the paper from his hands, and folded it carefully. Then she said, "You haven't lost everything." "Not yet." Keanu looked at her. It was the first time in weeks someone had said something that didn't feel like a lie, and for a moment, something flickered inside him. Something small, something warm. Hope. Dash. He left the shop that night with empty hands, but a lighter heart. He didn't know it yet. But that night was the beginning of something he had forgotten. Not fame, not glory. Something simpler, something human, connection, and Anna. She would become the reason he believed again. The girl behind the counter, Keanu, woke up the next morning before the sun. For the first time in weeks, he made coffee. Not the instant kind he'd been drinking, but real coffee. Ground beans, the smell filling the air. It felt strange, like muscle memory returning after a long sleep. He didn't know why, but he found himself reaching for a pen. He scribbled a few lines on a scrap of paper, not for a script, not for the press, just for himself. Then he folded it, put it in his jacket pocket, and left the apartment. The street outside was still wet from last night's rain. Cars passed, people hurried by, but everything felt quieter, softer. The bookshop wasn't open. But Anna was already inside, arranging books, humming to herself. When she saw Keanu at the door, she smiled. "You're early," she said. "I didn't sleep," he replied. She opened the door without another word. He handed her the folded paper. She read it slowly, nodding, then placed it inside the journal on the shelf without saying a thing. "How long have you had this place?" he asked. Anna looked around as if seeing it for the first time. "It belonged to my grandmother," she said. Saved lives. So she made a place where people could leave their pain behind in words. Keanu looked at the shelves again. Hundreds of books, hundreds of lives, and you just kept it going? I was lost once too. This place found me. He didn't ask what she meant. Could see it in her eyes, the same sadness he carried. Hers was quieter, older, but it was there. He started coming every morning. Sometimes he wrote. Sometimes he didn't. Sometimes they talked about music or coffee or the books that never sold. Sometimes they just sat in silence one morning. Anna was late. Keanu waited outside the locked door for almost an hour. When she finally arrived, she looked pale and tired. "Sorry," she said. "Doctor's appointment." She didn't explain. He didn't ask, but he noticed her hand trembling slightly as she unlocked the door inside. She sat slowly behind the counter. Keanu brought her tea from the cafe next door. "You okay?" he asked. "Just a checkup," she said too quickly, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. Keanu stayed longer that day. He told her stories, funny ones from movie sets, awkward interviews, fans who asked him to sign bananas instead of photos. Anna laughed. Really laughed. It was the first time he saw her shoulders relax. "You're kind," she said after a long pause. Keanu looked at her surprised. "You don't see that in yourself," she added, "but I do." He didn't know what to say. Nobody had called him kind in a long time, not since Maya. He stayed until the sun went down. They locked up together, walked in silence down the street. When they reached her corner, Anna turned to him and said, "I don't think you're broken, Keanu. Just healing." That night, Keanu sat at his window and watched the city lights. His grief hadn't gone. His pain hadn't left, but something had changed. For the first time, he didn't feel alone inside it. The next week, he brought a small photo to the shop. It was Maya laughing, her hair wild in the wind. He showed it to Anna. She would have liked you, he said softly. Anna took the photo gently, and I think she said she would have liked who you're becoming. Those words stayed with him all night, but the peace didn't last long, because 2 days later, when Keanu walked into the shop, he found a note taped to the door. "Closed for a few days. Sorry." No explanation. No signature. Just silence. And, for the first time in weeks, he felt the cold return. Something was wrong. The missing Keanu stood in front of the bookshop door, staring at the note. "Closed for a few days. Sorry," was written in Anna's handwriting. He knew it well by now. Gentle, neat, like the way she spoke. But this time, her words felt distant. Rushed, like she didn't want to say more. Or couldn't. He waited on the steps for hours that first day. People passed by, some glanced, some ignored him, but he didn't care. He just sat there, thinking. The next morning, he came back. The shop was still closed. On the third day, he knocked. No answer. He called the shop's number. It went straight to voicemail. He even checked the coffee shop next door. She hasn't been in, the barista said. Quiet girl, never missed a morning before. Keanu felt a weight in his chest. The same kind he felt the night he lost Maya. Not fear, not yet. But a silence too loud to ignore. He walked the streets for hours, checking hospitals, making calls, asking quiet questions. Nothing. By the fifth day, something inside him snapped. He returned to the shop at midnight and sat. On the sidewalk, the journal he used to write in, he had brought it with him. He opened to a blank page and began to write. Not for Anna this time. Not even for Maya, he wrote, because he didn't know what else to do. His words were raw. I don't know where you went, he wrote, but I miss your silence. It helped me breathe. By morning, he was still there, tired, cold, alone. And then, voice, you shouldn't be out here. He looked up. Anna stood in front of him, her face pale, thinner than before. Her hair was tied back, and her coat hung loosely on her shoulders. Keanu stood quickly. Where were you? He asked. Anna didn't answer. She looked down at his hands, at the journal, and then back up at his eyes. Come inside, he said quietly. They walked in together. The shop looked the same. The books, the radio, the little plant in the corner. Everything was in place, except her. She moved slower. Her hands shook when she poured tea. She didn't speak until they were sitting in the back room, where the old armchairs were. I didn't want you to see me like this, she said. Keanu waited. I've been sick for a long time, she finally admitted. Some days are good, others, not so much. I thought if I disappeared it would be easier. Easier for who? Keanu asked softly. Anna looked away. I've lost people too, she whispered. And I didn't want to become someone you had to lose. Those words hit him hard because they were the words he never dared to say to anyone after Maya. He reached out and placed the photo of Maya on the table. She tried to do the same thing, he said. Pushed me away when she got worse, but I told her. Love isn't a thing you protect others from. It's the thing that keeps them standing. Anna's eyes filled with tears. She nodded slowly. I'm scared, she said. Keanu didn't try to fix it. He didn't offer false hope. He just sat beside her, in silence, because sometimes silence is the loudest kind of love. The days that followed were quiet but warm. Anna opened the shop again, but only for a few hours. Keanu helped. He organized books, cleaned shelves, brewed tea. Sometimes he read to her from the journal. Sometimes she read to him. They laughed more, talked more. One afternoon, Anna gave him a box. Inside were dozens of folded notes. What's this? He asked. The ones I never shared, she said. Stories I wrote and left inside books, dreams, fears, even some about you. Keanu opened one. It read, I think kindness can bring people back from the edge. I think he's proof. He looked at her. She smiled shyly. I wrote that after the day you told me about Maya. Keanu held the note gently. You never stopped believing in people, did you? He asked. I wanted to, she said. But then you walked in and everything changed. He didn't reply. He just held her hand and that was enough. But life, as it often does, was not done testing them. Because one morning, as Keanu unlocked the shop, he found the front window shattered. The inside had been ransacked. Books scattered, shelves broken, journals torn. He stood frozen, heart racing. Anna arrived minutes later, her hands over her mouth, tears forming. But it wasn't the mess that made Keanu fall to his knees. It was the journal has gone. Someone had taken it. Every word, every page. Every secret he had trusted to that book gone. The stolen word. Skinny knelt on the floor, staring at the empty space where the journal used to be. The glass crunched under his hands. The shelves were broken, books tossed like trash, but none of it mattered, not compared to what was gone. His story, his pain, his healing. Someone had taken it. Anna stood by the door, her eyes wide and full of tears. She didn't speak. She couldn't. It was like watching someone steal a piece of her soul, too. Keanu slowly stood. His voice was quiet, cold. Why would anyone take a journal? Anna didn't answer, but she was shaking. Her hands trembled as she picked up a torn page. Maybe they didn't know what it was, she whispered. Or maybe they did. Police came. They took pictures, asked questions. They didn't understand why a missing notebook made Keanu so quiet. They called it minor damage. But to him it wasn't minor. It was personal. It was everything. Later that night, Keanu returned to the shop with a flashlight. Anna had gone home to rest, though he knew she wouldn't sleep. He walked through the broken shelves. Searching in the corner, he found a single page left behind. Torn from the journal, his handwriting. Grief isn't loud, it read. It whispers. It lives in quiet corners of the soul. But sometimes, if you listen close, you can hear it asking to be held. Keanu closed his eyes. Whoever had the journal, they had his soul in their hands. He made a decision that night. He would get it back. The next few days were a blur. Keanu checked pawn shops, old bookstores, street vendors. He used fake names, wore a hoodie, asked quiet questions. Nothing. Anna helped from the shop, putting up a handwritten sign near the door. Missing journal. Red leather cover. Reward. No questions asked. Some people came in just to look around. Some were curious. Some were kind, but most just moved on. The world didn't pause when your heart was broken. Keanu felt helpless again. Like he did when Maya was dying, like he did when Anna disappeared. And now, that helplessness returned, sharp, cruel. One night, he sat on the rooftop of his apartment, the city stretching out beneath him. The lights looked like stars. He thought about giving up, but then he remembered something Anna had said. You don't fix grief. You carry it. He whispered those words to himself. So carry it, he said aloud. But don't stop walking. A week later, something happened. A small package arrived at the shop. No return address. Anna opened it slowly, her hands trembling. Inside was a photo for the journal on a table with a note written on the back. I didn't know it meant that much. I found it in a trash bin. Meet me where the city sleeps. Keanu read the message again and again. Where the city sleeps. He knew that place. A quiet garden near an old bridge where homeless people sometimes gathered at night. Place he had gone to once, just to disappear. He went alone. Anna watched him leave with a soft look in her eyes, full of worry and hope. The garden was dark. A single bench sat beneath a dying streak. Keanu waited. After 20 minutes, a shadow approached. A young man, maybe early 20s. His clothes were worn, his face thin. He looked nervous. He held the journal in both hands. You wrote this? The man asked. Keanu nodded. I didn't mean to take it, the man said. I was cold. I saw the shop open, and I just grabbed something. I didn't even look until later. Why return it? Keanu asked. The man looked down. Because. Of this page, he said, opening it to a line. You wrote, kindness isn't a weakness. It's a way of surviving together. The man sniffed. Nobody ever said that to me before. Keanu stepped closer. Thank you for bringing it back. The man handed it over. He looked like he hadn't eaten in days. Keanu pulled out his wallet, but the man shook his head. I don't want money, he said. I needed someone to know I'm still here. Keanu placed a hand on his shoulder. I know now, he said gently. He returned to the bookshop that night. Journal in hand, Anna was still there, surrounded by candles, waiting. He placed the journal on the counter. You found it? She whispered. He nodded. She opened to a random page and smiled through tears. This place, these stories. They're alive because people care. Keanu sat beside her. So let's protect it, he said. And for the first time in a long time, both of them felt something strong. Not just peace, not just relief, but purpose. The shop became something new in the days that followed. People started coming not just to buy books, but to write in them, to leave messages, to share pain, to say. They were still here, still trying, still healing, but But just as things began to bloom again, Anna collapsed one morning behind the counter. Keanu was there to catch her. Her lips were pale. Her pulse was weak. As he held her, panic surged through him. "Stay with me," he whispered. "Please." When the heart stops whispering, ambulance lights painted the night in flashing red and white. Keanu sat beside Anna in the back, gripping her hand. She was unconscious, her breathing slow and uneven. Her skin felt cold. He couldn't stop shaking. He had felt helpless before, when Maya was in pain, when the journal was taken, when the world felt like it was falling apart. But this was worse. This was Anna, the woman who sat with him in silence, the woman who never asked for anything, not even when she was hurting, the woman who brought him back from the edge. And now she was fading in front of him at the hospital. They rushed her inside. A nurse tried to stop him at the door, but Keanu didn't move. "She's all I have," he said, his voice flat. They let him wait in the hallway. Hours passed. Nobody came out. He stared at the white walls. Every second felt longer than the last. His heart beat like thunder in his chest. Finally, a doctor walked over. "Are you family?" he asked. Keanu didn't blink. "I am now." Doctor gave a tired nod. "She has a heart condition. Rare, quiet. She must have known something was wrong for a long time." Keanu's hands curled into fists. "Why didn't she say anything?" he asked. "People hide things," the doctor said. "Sometimes to protect others. Sometimes because they're afraid of losing what little good they have left." Keanu looked at the floor. "Is she going to die?" The doctor didn't answer right away. "We're doing everything we can." He walked away, and Keanu was left. In silence again, he visited her every day. She was still unconscious. Machines beeped. Tubes hummed. Nurses checked the monitors. Keanu sat beside her, reading pages from the journal out loud. "You once said silence was a soft place to land," he whispered. "But this isn't soft. This is heavy. This is breaking me." He brought her flowers. Music. Even a small book of poetry. He didn't know if she could hear him, but he talked anyway. "You saved me," he said one night, his voice shaking. "You gave me a reason to believe again. Please, don't go." On the 5th day, she opened her eyes, just barely. Her lips moved. He leaned in. "Hi." She whispered. Tears streamed down Keanu's face. He laughed and cried all at once. "You scared me," he said softly. "Didn't mean to," she replied, her voice fragile. He squeezed her hand. "Rest," he said. "I'll stay." Her recovery was slow. Days turned into weeks. Sometimes she was strong. Sometimes she could barely sit up. But Keanu never left her side. He read to her every morning, and made jokes when she couldn't smile, cried with her when the nights got too quiet. And one night, when the moonlight fell through the hospital window just right, she looked at him and said, "You've become the quiet place I needed." Keanu kissed her hand. "Then I'll never be loud again," he whispered. Anna was released one cold afternoon. Keanu pushed her wheelchair through the bookshop. Doors, everything had been cleaned, repaired, warmed. A new journal sat on the front table, blank and waiting. Anna smiled when she saw it. "Let's call this one Chapter 2, she said. And they did. They wrote in it every day together. But fate still had more pages to turn one morning. Anna called Keanu from the shop. Her voice was shaking. "You need to come," she said. He arrived in minutes. She held a letter in her hand. It was from the hospital. Her condition was worse than they thought. She had months. Maybe less. Keanu's heart dropped. "No," he said. "No, we're not doing this again. Not this." Anna touched his face gently. "I'm not afraid," she whispered. "Not anymore, 'cause I got to meet you." He pulled her into his arms, holding her like the world was ending. "We'll fight this," he said. "Maybe," she whispered. "Or maybe we'll just write something beautiful with the time we have left." And that's what they did. They made the shop a home for others. People came from all over to write, to read, to cry, to find each other. The story of the journal was shared online, quietly, gently, like a secret people. It's passed along, and something amazing happened. Letters poured in from strangers, from fans, from people who were lost, who had found hope in Anas. Story. One letter said, "I was going to give up until I read what you wrote." Another read, "You reminded me I'm still worth something." Anna cried, reading those. Keanu held her close. "See," he whispered, "you mattered." As the days grew shorter, Anna grew weaker, but she smiled more, laughed more, loved harder. I thought I had lost everything," Keanu said one evening, as they sat watching the rain. "But you gave me something I forgot I needed." "What's that?" she asked. "A reason to stay?" Anna closed her eyes and whispered, "Then promise me something." "Anything," Keanu said. "When I'm gone, don't stop writing." He didn't answer right away. He just pulled her into his arms and held her as the rain tapped the windows like a soft goodbye. The last page, the first light sun rose slow and quiet on the morning Anna passed away. She was in her bed. Inside the bookshop, they had moved her there weeks ago. The hospital had offered more machines, more wires, more time, but she had chosen peace instead. She wanted to be surrounded by words, by memories, by love. Keanu was holding her hand when she took her last breath. No machines beeped, no alarms screamed, just silence, a soft, sacred silence. He didn't cry right away. He just sat there, watching her face, peaceful and still. Her lips curved just slightly, like she had fallen asleep in the middle of a dream. The kind of dream she once told him about, where she was dancing in the rain, spinning with joy, her feet never touching the ground. The world outside didn't know. Not yet. The shop remained closed that day. The lights off, the curtains drawn. Keanu sat by her side until the sun had gone down. When he finally stood, he walked over to the journal, their journal, the one she had started calling Chapter 2, and he wrote one more line. "You are the best part of my story." The days that followed were hard. People came. They cried. They hugged him. They shared stories of how Anna had changed their lives. Keanu listened. He didn't speak much, but he stayed. He didn't run this time, didn't hide because she had asked him not to. On the morning of the small ceremony, Keanu stood in front of a circle of people gathered in the garden behind the shop. The wind was soft. Petals from nearby trees floated down like snow. He held the journal in his hands. Anna believed in stories, he said, but more than that, she believed in people, even when they were hurting, especially when they were. His voice cracked. "She saved me, not with medicine, not with grand gestures, but with her silence, her kindness, presence." He paused. "She once told me, love doesn't fix the broken, it walks beside it." He looked up, double quotes. "So today, I promise her this." He reopened the bookshop 1 week later, but it wasn't just a shop anymore. He renamed it Anna's Light. People still came for books, but more came for something else. A chair in the corner, a blank page, a place to write without fear. Keanu started a foundation with the letters they had received. It helped young writers, people recovering from loss, those who needed quiet spaces. One afternoon, a little girl came into the shop, holding her mother's hand. "My daddy died," she said. "Can I write him a letter?" Keanu knelt down and handed her a pencil. "You can write him anything you want," he said softly. "He'll hear it." She smiled, sat down, and began to write. And Keanu watched, feeling something bloom inside him. Not pain, not sadness. Something else. Peace - years. The shop stayed open. The journal grew thicker. Keanu wrote every day. Sometimes a sentence, sometimes a chapter, but always something, because the promise still lived in him. On the anniversary of her passing, he sat alone in the back of the shop, holding their journal. He whispered, "I kept writing, Anna, just like you asked." He smiled. Then he opened to a fresh page and began again. Outside, the sun broke through the clouds. A soft light filled the room, and for a moment, the world felt full again. Not because the pain was gone, but because the love stayed, and that was enough.